Okay, Diana, if you're there, I see we are live streaming now.
Yes, I'm just triple checking with Jeff to make sure that everything is fine. I sometimes have YouTube gremlins that get me. So I'm just.
They get us all.
Yes, so I'm just making sure. Oh, yeah, I have confirmation that everything is fine and our meeting is live streaming. So whenever you are ready, Chair, go ahead.
Okay, well, just a couple of words before we get too far into this. This will be the 5th time we have conducted the Committee of Adjustment online via Zoom. I'd like to thank staff for just amazing amount of work that they've put into this. And it's worked the first 4 times. Let's see how it works out today. I'm assuming that all the participants of the session today know that when they want to speak, they raise a hand. I think you can do that electronically too. And they will be recognized by the chair and will have an opportunity to speak. So without further ado, I'll call this meeting to order. The first item is on the unfinished business, which is submission A 2020-080 335 Lancaster Street West. This has been amended. We reviewed it last month. So is the applicant here? Oh, okay. Doctor, let me get my notes here.
Ellie, unmute your microphone.
Hi there.
Hello, Dr. Allison. How are you doing today?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. I should be out on the golf course, but that's the way.
It's a bit cold today.
Well, it's Canada.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have read the amended staff report.
I have.
And do you have any comments about that?
Well, first of all, I would just like to apologize that I wasn't at last month's meeting as I was in the operating room, so I'm excited to participate this time. I read both of the reports, and I'm happy that it seems like Richard was supportive in his report at our request to have our parking requirements decreased from 17 or 14, depending on the bylaw, to 8. Dr. Stewart and I purchased this building in August. We're 2 OBGYNs who have a small practice. Our office right now has 4 rooms, and so we're excited to expand to 6 rooms, just so that we have a place that people can, finish getting dressed after their exam while we move on to the next patient. Generally, we only work 1 at a time, so we wouldn't be anticipating more than 2 or 3 people in the office at any one time. And on a couple days a month, sometimes we do work at the same time. So we might have up to 6 patients in the office at the same time. So we are anticipating that 8 spots is more than enough parking spaces for our patients. So we're just hoping that the committee will agree and give us the variance so that we can open our office.
Okay. I do have a question either for the applicant or for staff. And it's regarding the rear ramp in the parking lot. I seem to be a little unsure as to whether that's going to remain or whether that's going to be removed. Maybe someone can clarify that for me.
Our plan would be to remove it and put a ramp at the front. There does need to be some work done on the stairs at the front, so we'd like to add the ramp there. We haven't removed it yet because we aren't even sure if we're going to get to keep the building. So we just tried to sort of work around it, but that's not going to be where the parking ramp or where the wheelchair ramp the accessibility ramp would be.
Okay, that makes sense because the way I see it on in the report, you'd have to have a very small car to park in that last parking spot.
Yes.
Okay, that's all my questions. Anything from the members of the committee? Questions, comments? Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm glad we deferred this application last month because I think the survey was quite telling. I just have a question for staff. Why staff are not recommending a right-of-way, a formal right-of-way over the neighboring property, as the legally, I guess, the access they've got around the side of the building is only 2 meters wide.
Julianne?
Through you, Mr. Chair, staff found that the requirement for this easement would likely be very onerous for the applicants. And the site has operated in this fashion for a number of years. I recall this site from many years ago. It was under a different use and it functioned just fine. Keeping in mind that, you know, we do have a driveway that's in between these two buildings, and we just found it a little bit too onerous to require that easement. Yeah, in keeping with the spirit of, you know, just trying to assist these folks in getting a very important and very needed service for the community. We're hopeful that the committee would support staff's recommendations here. We've given it a lot of thought, and the applicant has done a lot of work, has even gone so far as to delineate the spaces, has actually delineated them on the ground, has worked with staff, and I think we'll continue to work with staff. We have every confidence that this will be a very good proposal moving forward.
If I can comment, Scott, just for a moment. Yeah, I saw that too, that it's only a 2-meter wide access at the narrowest point, but the adjacent property is also paved. So if you're trying to put a pickup truck, which is a little wider than 2 meters, you might encroach on the neighbor's property a couple of inches. And as staff has pointed out, that historically this has worked very well. So I don't think it's going to be a problem for now. Scott, you have a question?
Yeah, I have no issue, Mr. Chairman, with the 8 spaces that are being requested, and the site certainly functions now based on the kind of, it is a mutual drive per se. I just, a word of caution to the applicant: when the property next door, if and when it ever redevelops, please protect your interests, because they could end up with a fence there, and you could find yourself with some very unsatisfied clients.
Yes, thank you for that.
Yep.
Okay, any further comments or questions from the committee?
Not from me.
Mr. Chairman, I'm pleased to move the recommendation from staff that I guess it's a 2-part resolution as per the staff report, that the variance be approved under both bylaws.
As amended.
As amended.
Is there a seconder?
I'll second that.
Mike, all in favor? Motion is carried. Dr. Allison, the building is yours.
Thank you very much to all the members of the committee. Thank you.
Okay, moving along to the regular agenda. The first one that I have is 380 Grand River Boulevard. If there's anybody here in support or opposition, I hope we can get you logged in. Is the applicant here?
Bob, you have several people in attendance in support for this application. So,
Yep, I got that here.
yeah,
Lots
you have
of paperwork.
3 people in support.
Okay, there is our applicant. Okay. To the applicant, have you had an opportunity to read the staff report?
Yes, sir. I don't understand it, but I read it.
I guess we have 2 applicants here. You didn't understand it.
Well, I understand what's going on, but it's not something.
I prepared it for them.
Yes.
Okay, any questions that you may have regarding the staff report?
No, sir. It seems straightforward. I'm sorry.
Fairly straightforward. It's just to legalize an existing driveway and to legalize a small driveway widening. I guess you're going to lose a tree, but that's tough sometimes. Does the committee have any questions or comments? Scott.
Yeah, real quick, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Just for staff, did the original permit for the garage conversion, was it issued kind of in error? I don't understand how the original permit got issued for the garage conversion.
Yeah, so the original permit, when we applied for it, we proposed that we do a garage, like parking spot beside the existing garage. Therefore, we'd have an actual parking spot beside. We moved forward with the renovation, and then when the reno was done, then we applied for the variance. So we didn't have to add the driveway beside the garage.
Thank you very much. That clarifies it. Great.
Any further questions from the committee? Comments?
Chair, I'm prepared to make a motion to approve.
Seconder? Scott, all in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. That one's done.
Thank you.
We'll move on to the next one, which is 339 Rosemount. And there are some people that are in support and some people in opposition. 3 people, I guess, are in opposition, if I've got that correct. Is the applicant here? That would be Rodney Friesen. Is Rodney here? Doesn't appear. Let me see. Diana, do we have the applicant here?
So for Rosemount, your applicant is Leo, and he is in attendance there. Leo, if you wouldn't mind turning on your camera if you have access to that.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yep.
Okay. Let me see. I'm new to this.
That's okay. And on the bottom left, there's a camera button.
A camera button.
That's okay. Bob, you may just want to let that go.
Oh,
So the
I
agent,
think I got it.
and you have 3 in opposition.
Okay, there we are. So Leo, you're the only one of the applicants that is appearing before us today?
Correct. Yes, sir.
Okay, have you read the staff report?
Yes, we have.
Any questions or comments on that?
No, just basically a very straightforward thing that we have enough parking space. We're not doing any alterations outside of the house. Nothing is changing. The only thing we're doing is doing the work inside the house. That's all.
Okay. There have been a number, I think 3 neighbors that are in opposition to this variance. Are they here online? I don't see them.
So Bob, you do have Barb and Ed that are available. I have to confirm one applicant. It appears that Holly and I had.
Yes, Barb and Ed Gears are here.
And Rhonda Betcher's on the phone.
There you go. Okay.
Okay, well, we'll start with one of them. I didn't get their names. I thought the names I have are different. Can you go through this, why you're opposed to this application?
Bob, maybe start with Rhonda Betcher. She's the first one on your list.
Where is?
Hi.
Go ahead, Rhonda.
Hi. I grew up in the house next door. So then we bought next door here. So I've been here 50 years. You know, we've got over 6 rentals on the street now, and the street has changed so much in the last 8 to 10 years. It's just, you know, it's no longer a nice street. So I'm really concerned about the parking. The house next to this house already has too many cars there, and they're parked on the street every night. We've got another rental across the street that has a car on the road every night. So that's my opposition.
Primarily a parking problem.
Well, and just the number of rentals. I can't believe the city allows this. This used to be like a residential street.
Julianne, you want to comment on that?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the fact of whether or not the properties are rented or not is not a planning matter. We can't people zone against the users of a property. It is still being used for residential uses. The property is still permitted. The use is still permitted. It's a duplexing of a building, which is permitted as of right throughout the city. So I just wanted to mention that so that the listeners are aware of that. That's everything for me. Thanks.
Agreed. There is no ability under the Planning Act or under the bylaws for this committee to perhaps even comment on whether the place is rented or owner occupied. As we move forward with intensification in the urban core, we're going to end up with some challenges on parking. But this applicant is just looking for a parking variance, a minor variance, to facilitate the duplex. Is there other neighbors who are opposed to this application?
Yes, Bob. Barb and Ed are also in the meeting.
Okay.
So Ed, if you want to go ahead and express your opposition at this moment.
Yes, and I believe we also agree with Rhonda Betcher, our neighbor. We do see numerous vehicles parked on the road daily, overnight, and it really has become a problem on the street with just all the vehicles.
Okay, concern is noted. Any other neighbors who are opposed to this, or does Leo have something he wants to say?
Yes, if you could hear me.
Yeah.
Okay, there are a couple of concerns. We certainly appreciate the neighbors' concern, and we are well aware of that, but we have to keep in mind that one's house neighbor has got nothing to do with the other one beside it. If they park in the car on the street, it's got nothing to do with what we do, or it's got nothing to do with the other house. All we're asking is for a variance to basically move the meter, to move the parking from 6 meters to 2 meters. That's all we're asking for. And when it comes to the rentals and everything, I guess it's as far as we know that it's legal to rent your place or not to rent your place wherever you want, whenever you want. That's basically, and again, we certainly appreciate the concerns. And whether or not that place is going to be rented or not is remain to be seen. That's just a hearsay or just maybe a sort of assumption. But that's basically what I needed to raise when it comes to the neighbors' concern. But we certainly appreciate their concerns. It's not uncommon, I guess.
Okay. Is there any other neighbors who are in opposition to this application? Don't see anything. Any questions or comments from the committee? Jennifer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to note, first of all, I think comments were made already to this effect, but intensification of existing houses, existing dwellings is a provincial mandate that's set out expressly in the Planning Act. They are actually strongly encouraging secondary suites in existing single detached homes, semi-detached homes, and even townhomes. This is the sort of thing that's being encouraged by the province right now to intensify and make better use of existing infrastructure. So I can completely appreciate the concerns of the residents, and I know change is hard, especially if you've been in the neighborhood the whole time and viewing it, and subjectively you perceive it to be maybe not for the best. But this is a mandate coming down from the province. I would also note that if this house were not to be rented and were to continue to be used as a single detached, single unit premises, you could very well end up with the exact same parking situation as what's being proposed here. It's simply a legalization of the setback of the parking spaces to the road. It's currently it function as a legal right, the way it functions right now is actually what you would call legal non-conforming. So really, this is a very, very minor modification, and we can't use this in any way to thwart the use of the house for rental or multiple units or anything of that sort. So I'm prepared to support the application.
Okay, any other comments from the committee?
Through you, Mr. Chair, just a quick comment with respect to the parking as it presently exists. It certainly just appears to me in a visual drive-by that the driveway has been used for a two-car parking for some time. There's well-established curbstones on the driveway now, and it would appear that two cars have been parking in this manner for years, I suspect, and that
Well,
there's
actually, this is Rhonda Betcher. Actually, that's not true, because that was the original people in that house who built that house. The husband has passed away, and the wife is in a nursing home. Those are the original owners who owned one car for the 50-some years that house has been built.
Okay, thank you for that update. Who still is to have a minor variance for the parking, which I believe Jennifer commented that if this was still to remain a single detached dwelling, they would technically still need a variance for the parking, wouldn't they? Jennifer's shaking her head no.
I don't believe they would.
Okay. Scott, you have something to say.
Yeah, I appreciate Jennifer's comments. I was going to make very similar ones. I just had a question for the applicant. The garage is being used for a garage now, correct? It's going to be converted as part of the two-unit dwelling?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes, the garage is right now, it's empty, and we don't know what the use of it was before. We're planning to make it a livable space. That's basically what we're asking for.
Yeah, just to follow up then, Mr. Chairman, visually, there's nothing going to change on this particular property other than the fact that rather than getting one car in the garage and one car or two in the driveway, you're going to have two in the driveway. And that's what the bylaw requires, is one space per dwelling unit. So when the time comes, I'm prepared to second Jennifer's motion.
Okay. So Jennifer, you made that motion?
Yes, Mr. Chair, motion to approve the application.
Seconded by Scott. Or do you have any comments, Scott?
No, I was just going to second again.
Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, so this is if you wouldn't mind raising your hand when you're in support and opposition as well, just to confirm, okay?
Okay, next application is 34 Dunham Avenue. Anyone in support or opposition, please log in.
Sorry, we do have one quick renaming issue. It appears that somebody else has been renamed Garrett Stevenson as well. So I'm going to ask you to unmute your microphone. I just need to confirm what application you're here for.
My name is Garrett Weinhardt.
Thank you. That's okay. There's two people doing some renaming, so there was a bit of confusion there with two Garretts.
Sure.
Let me just catch up to speed here. Okay. So that's the applicant is the second Garrett. Oh,
I'm sorry. That was just for a future application. I just needed to make sure that we weren't missing them when you called them.
Okay. So
you have Adelaide here. She's in the bottom screen for you.
I see Adelaide in support or opposition.
I'm the applicant.
I'm sorry. Oh, yes, I see that. Okay. And we have the other Garrett somewhere who is in support or opposition?
Sorry, Bob, for the confusion. It was just a gentleman for a future application that was renamed Garrett. We had Garrett Stevenson, our city planner, is also here, and they were all both renamed the same person.
That would get confusing. Okay, so to the applicant, Adelaide, have you read the staff report?
Yes.
Any questions or comments?
No, we're just applying for a minor variance because we have an existing foundation and we're trying to add to the duplex spaces. So that will be our next permit application.
Okay, you are aware that it's in the staff report that the building department will have to take a look at that existing foundation to see if it meets current code, and that just a note to you, it's not in the report, but you will need a building permit at some point to move forward with this. So
Yes.
Sorry?
Yes, I'm aware.
Any questions or comments from the committee? Scott?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, that was going to be my question as well to staff, is that part of the foundation it appears to be constructed without a permit, and building is asking for a permit. Should we be recommending that at least a building permit be applied for in this case, just so that we make sure it happens? Question for staff.
Julianne?
Through you, Mr. Chair, staff would have no problem with that request. If the committee wanted to add that, that would be fine with staff. Thank you.
Okay, any further questions, comments? Scott?
Yeah, I just had a question for the applicant. I found it interesting that your application is for 34 Dunham, but the surveys that you put attached to your application are for the neighboring properties. You must have friendly neighbors.
Yes, we do.
So you're drawing your dimensions from the neighboring surveys, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, I'm satisfied that you probably got it right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any further questions?
Mr. Chairman, I'm prepared, if there's no more questions, to recommend approval of the application subject to one additional condition, that a building permit be applied for the addition.
Someone to second?
I would second that.
Mike seconded it. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. As amended.
Thank you.
Okay, next application. Let me make sure we've got this. Is 305 Driftwood Drive. Anyone in support or opposition, please log in. Okay, I guess the applicant there is Matthew?
Yeah, Megan Campbell and Matthew Feetham.
Okay.
So we built a pool this summer, got our permit approved from the city, and then after the pool was started, the city let us know there's an ongoing issue for multiple properties on our area, where several houses, if not dozens of houses, are over the initial property line.
Understood. And so what the staff is recommending is an encroachment agreement. Are you familiar what an encroachment agreement entails?
Yep, we've been working with the city. They're ready to offer one once we have the variance approved.
Sounds straightforward. Unfortunately, these things do happen, which is why I guess we have the Committee of Adjustment. Any comments or questions from the committee? Scott?
I just had a question for the applicant. Did you construct the fence, or was the fence there before you started your pool?
The fence was there when we purchased the house 8 years ago. And the bylaw officer we were working with said he's had visual proof that it's been there since '94.
Yeah. That helps. Thank you very much.
Any further questions or comments? Okay, does someone bring forward a motion?
I will, given the simplicity of the application and the longstanding situation, I'd be prepared to move that this application be approved as submitted.
Seconder for that? Jennifer? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. To Megan and Matthew, that your application has been approved. Have fun in the pool next summer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next application is for 12 Rose Street. There are several people in support and several people in opposed to this application. Is the applicant here?
Yes, Chair McCall, I'm acting for the applicant.
I see.
I'm Steve Ross, and I believe Christina Hirdes is on the call as well. I'm not sure. She might just be live streaming.
No, I'm here as well.
Okay. She's the owner of the property.
I see.
Chair McCall.
And I see that she's also registered in as Steve Ross, but that's okay. Mr. Ross, have you and your client read the staff report?
Yes, we have. We are in support of the staff report, and we certainly would adopt it as our submissions. It does satisfy the 4-part test. The general intent of the official plan, obviously it's a low density residential neighborhood. General intent of the zoning bylaw, we have a house on a street, residential neighborhood. And Mr. Stevenson points out that and this addresses one of the comments, is that from the objectors, is that it is a consistent street edge. It's consistent with the other covered porches on the street. It's minor in nature and it is appropriate. There's no negative adverse impact in our submission. And if I may, I wouldn't mind just addressing some of the other comments. There was concerns about transportation. Well, transportation attended on site and they had no concerns. So the professionals have determined that there's no concern, and the neighbor of 17 years has stated, Lana Moses, that there's no concern about the cars. And with respect to heritage, because I think two of the objections mentioned heritage. This isn't part of the Heritage District. The closest one is Civic Center. It is part of the Frederick Neighborhood Cultural Heritage Landscape. But again, the professional planners, professional staff have determined that there are no heritage concerns. This is not, this is in compliance with that cultural landscape. So subject to any questions and comments, those are our submissions. One of the most telling comments were from Lana Moses, who said that, porches make for more safety. And for the planners in the room, I went to planning school 30 years ago now. We would call that eyeballs in the street. We would call that interaction with the street, and almost a new urbanism feel by allowing this porch.
Okay, for those who are in opposition, we'd like to hear from you. Who wants to go first?
Bob, I can confirm that the only person that was supposed to be in attendance in opposition indicated that he may have technical difficulties and has not logged into the meeting. So the only oppositions that you received were the written submissions. There were 4 of them that were circulated in the past 2 to 3 days, and the submission in support this morning. So there were quite a few submissions, but nobody is in attendance in opposition.
Okay, any comments from staff on this particular application?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I don't have any concerns. You have staff's recommendation. I think we have a transportation staff person on the call as well. And if there are any questions for Stephen with respect to that, I'm sure he'd be more than happy to answer any questions.
Okay, Scott.
Just a quick question for staff. And for the record, I did read all the letters in support and objection, and there were several that raised heritage as an issue. I just want to confirm what the applicant has told us, or the applicant's representative, that it is not in a heritage conservation district.
Through the chair, that is correct. It's not been identified as a heritage conservation district. It was identified as a potential candidate for cultural heritage landscape. So we have identified several of those throughout the city, and we will be implementing that work program in future. So there are no heritage designation or bylaws or policies that do apply to this property at this current time.
Thank you very much. Given the level of objection that there was, I did actually go to see this property, and as a former planner, I support what the applicant has stated today. The porch is in the line of occupation for the rest of the street, and actually it's going to look really nice. So I'm going to support when the time comes.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, I'm in agreement with the staff report and with Scott's comments. An interesting thing, I didn't do a drive-by, but I did a virtual drive-by on Google, and the picture they have there is a somewhat older picture. And my opinion, as a designer, I think the new construction is an improvement. I think I share the concerns of the neighbors that when change happens in their neighborhood, that it can get complicated. So any other comments or questions on this application? Not seeing.
Only to say that I appreciate the comments made. It sounds like Jane Jacobs' principles are alive and well with eyeballs on the street. And I'm prepared to move that this application be approved.
Scott, you seconding?
Yep.
Okay, so this is approved with no conditions. We have a motion on the floor, seconded. All in favor? Carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I could just make a comment, I've attended a lot of these hearings, and this is probably the best run hearing. So I'd like to congratulate clerks and other staff for running a very good hearing. And the technology is very difficult. So I just want to make sure, I want to give credit where credit is due. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for the compliment. As I said, when I first got going, staff has done an amazing job at making this happen. Okay, so that's done. We'll move to the next application, which is 180 Grand Flats Trail, Milestone Developments. Anyone in support or opposition, if they can log in?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can hear somebody.
Yeah, Patrick Haramis. I'm representing the client. I don't know if my, oh, hang on.
Okay. Oh, there you are. Okay, that's good. I'm assuming you have read the staff report on this?
Yes, I have.
Any comments, questions?
No, I'm happy with their recommending approval, so hopefully it works out.
With no conditions. Is there anyone opposed to this application? Not seeing anyone. Comments from the committee? Scott.
Just a question for either the applicant or staff. On page 1 of the report, it says the applicant is constructing. That sounds to me like it's under construction already. Can somebody confirm if it's under construction?
No, that's will be constructing. It's not under construction.
That's what I figured, because I did see the site and there was nothing there. So thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay, so this is just a variance for side and rear yard setbacks, and I think it's very minor. Any further comments from the committee? Not seeing anyone. Someone want to make a motion? Come on, somebody make a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll move to approve this application without condition.
Okay, Good. We have a seconder for that. Mike. Okay. All in favor? Carried. Next. Thank you, Pat, for showing up. That's great.
I think you're going to see me for the next one and the one after that as well.
Oh, yes. Okay. I see that. So you'll hang around for a while. Okay. Next application is 41 Valley Brook Drive. And the applicant, as we can see, is here. Staff is recommending this for approval with no conditions. Any comments from the committee?
Again, a very simple application with a very minor setback change request. And I would like to move that this application be approved as submitted and move on to the next one.
Is there a seconder? Scott. Okay, all in favor? Carried. Okay, next one, 53 Valley Brook Drive. Again, Patrick Haramis is online to give us his comments. You obviously have read the staff report?
Yeah, I have no issues.
I have a question either for the applicant or staff. On page 3, there is in the diagram, the site plan, I guess you can call it, there is a note that says easement for access and encroachment. Is that an informal easement, or is that one registered on title?
No, it'll be registered on title. It's because of the 0 lot line. It's a requirement to have an encroachment and a maintenance easement.
Okay, will that be coming through the Committee of Adjustment at some point?
It's already done.
Already done, okay. Answers my question. Scott, you have a question.
Yeah, I just had a quick one for the applicant. The square that's at the front where you got the 1 meter side yard, that's a porch, open air, I suspect?
Yeah, yeah.
That's fantastic. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the committee? Scott.
I want to ruin anybody else's thunder, but I'm prepared to support the application as submitted.
Okay, that's a motion. Seconder. Mike or Jennifer. Okay, all in favor? Motion is carried.
Thank you.
Okay, next application is 236 Woodhaven Road. There are some people in support and some people in opposition. Is the applicant here?
Yes.
Okay. Are those who are in opposition to this, are they available as well? They'd be on live streaming, I guess.
They are, yes. You have Bill and Garrett that are logged in.
Bill Weir and Garrett Weinhardt.
Yes.
Good, I got that right.
You did.
Okay.
Nailed it.
To the applicant, you have obviously, or I'm assuming that you have read the staff report. Do you have any questions or comments?
No.
Okay. Staff is recommending approval with conditions. Seems fairly straightforward. I guess we'll hear from those who are opposed to this application. That would be either Bill or Garrett, the other Garrett.
Yeah, I can voice my concern. My concern is that there are no shipping containers as permanent fixtures anywhere in the neighborhood currently. And I don't know if a 40-foot long shipping container at the edge of the property bordering on my neighbors and my property, visible from all sides, is something ideal. I don't know if it's a good spot for the shipping containers to be placed. There's room behind the building itself. that I believe they put gardens into, but that would be hidden from everywhere. Their application states they have concerns of security issues, but putting another dwelling in plain view, I think may mitigate some of those security concerns by not putting it behind their building.
Okay, I have a question for staff. And the question is, I don't have any of these containers in my neighborhood either.
Yeah.
These are a legal form of storage? Question to staff.
Through you, Mr. Chair. They are, if they are unmodified, meaning that they do not have any holes cut into them, they're not considered a building, and they are typically not permitted inside residential areas. They're considered outdoor storage. If they are modified, and in this case, one of the proposed containers is modified and one is unmodified. If they are modified with holes cut into them, windows, doors, etc., they are considered a building. And so they could be permitted if they were converted into a building through modification. And they could be used for an accessory building, a shed, in a residential area. So unmodified, they would not be permitted. Modified, they would be permitted.
Can you repeat that? Unmodified, they are not permitted?
Unmodified, they would not be permitted in a residential area because they're considered outdoor storage and they're not considered a building. With modifications, they are considered a building and could be used in accordance with setbacks and whatnot in a residential area.
Okay, from what I understand in the report, there will be one that is modified and one that is not modified.
That's correct.
Now, maybe staff can explain to the applicant the issue of putting in a fence to mitigate visual appearance from their properties.
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Weinhardt myself.
So just to explain that to the group here, the recommended condition is to require a 2.6 meter high fence. So it's just over 8 feet. That would be roughly the same height as the shipping containers to provide a visual screen. And that would be located right on the lot line in the vicinity of the shipping containers.
Okay, Scott, you have a comment.
Yeah, I just have a question for the applicant. Nowhere in the application or the staff report does it mention what the storage containers are being used for. So that's the first part of the question, just I have to understand that. And then why could you not store whatever materials you have outside inside? It's quite a large building, or put a nice sensitive building addition on for your storage.
Yeah, I agree too.
Okay. I guess there's a few answers to those questions. One answer in relation to the addition to the building is expense. And we just don't, we're a not-for-profit organization. We just don't have those funds available to us. Secondly, in terms of, what was your first question again?
What is the storage? What are you storing?
Storage, yes. Storage, yes, thank you. And in terms of storage, we have, one of our programs is and I'll call it the accessory building, which is the 40-foot one, which is going to be modified to have garage doors in it for us. We're using that as a garage to help teach Indigenous people how to repair bikes, as well as having all the parts and tools available for them to repair bikes in our parking lot, so they have access to their own set of wheels. It's basically a thrifting program for them. And the other unit is used for storage of excess material. Sometimes there's bikes in it. Sometimes there's stuff for our early on center, and sometimes there are things for our Spirit Bundle program. And our Spirit Bundles basically help hundreds of Indigenous families actually across the region. And what they are is, it's like a food bank, but it's a clothing bank, it's a furniture bank, it's a bunch of things that we donate out to families as they need them. And sometimes we don't have the capacity in our center, because our center is actually fully operational as an early on site, as well as an employment agency, as a tech mentoring hub, and also as a national mentoring program across the area. We also have a library. So there just is no capacity inside the building. Our current storage is at capacity, and it's already filled with our early on supplies.
Any further questions, comments?
Could you not increase the size of your garage in order to do that, instead of having a shipping container, a 40-foot long shipping container along the property's edge?
In answer to that question, we've had a number of break-in attempts on our property since really the beginning, and people have tried to pull panels off the garage as well. We found that our metal garage is actually much stronger. We've also put in security cameras all across the property, a new parking lot to discourage people, and I guess vagrants, or whatever word you want to use for them, from I guess those activities. So in answer to your question, this is the most secure form of pieces of, I guess, things that we have available to us. And because these are bicycles that we're talking about for the new garage, and bicycles are one of the most stolen things out there, we found that, yeah, people attack our sheds.
So these modified shipping containers, the plan is to keep them there indefinitely?
Yes, the plan is to keep them there indefinitely. However, we intend to put like a really high wood fence around them, so that essentially they're going to be invisible from all of the neighbors' yards. The only side that you will actually see is if you're inside of our parking lot, which faces our building, which is where those garage doors are cut into them, and the man door.
So it's going to be a working garage?
Yes, that's exactly what it's going to be. And the other one's a storage garage.
Okay. Any other further questions, comments from the committee?
Mr. Chairman, just a clarification, the gentleman who spoke against the application, where do you live in relationship? I'm looking at the location map.
I'm his neighbor, and I agree 100% too.
What is the address?
19 Maywood Road. This is Bill Weir speaking, if you can hear me.
Yep, thank you.
This is actually the entire back fence. Like, I will be the one that's really having this directly in front of my fence. And although I absolutely support all of the programs that it's putting into place, it's one of the things in the application says they'd like it preferably out of sight. Well, it certainly isn't out of my sight. It's actually going to be closer to my fence than typically permitted. And if it's a permanent structure, I'd prefer a garage also, especially rather than a modified shipping container.
Okay, any further questions, comments? Andrew.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, just one comment. The shipping container that's modified will be still set back 4.8 meters. If this was a residential zone, that would be considered more than sufficient. So I'd just like to point that out.
Any other further questions? Jennifer, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, it seems to me that, I guess at first I'll start with a question for Mr. Pinnell. You said that the modified containers are permitted in a are not permitted in a residential area, but how do you define a residential area if this isn't zoned for residential uses? I acknowledge that it's surrounded by residential properties, but does this constitute a residential area for that reason?
It's an interesting question. I could respond several ways. It is a low-rise residential area. In fact, I think the designation is low-rise residential. There are pockets, though, of non-residential use, which is permitted under the zoning. In this case, it's an institutional zone, and it's an institutional use. So it's kind of both. Certainly in these types of areas, we try to strive to make sure that the pockets of non-residential use are fully compatible. And I think certainly through the setback that's shown here, as well as the conditions, it is compatible.
Sorry, and just a follow-up question on that. You did note that there's a fairly generous or standard setback or buffer between this proposed building and the side yard. And there's a condition for a site plan, like a modified site plan for landscaping. And I note that there's trees along the north property line, and I believe maybe even the other side yard. Is there a potential that through that site plan process, there might be some more plantings that will occur between the building and the side yard? I think you just put yourself on mute, Mr. Phil.
Did the opposite. So through you, Mr. Chair, there would likely not be more plantings located between the shipping container and the side lot line. But again, there would be a fence. The urban designer for this area, I've gone out to the site with her and I've toured the facility with the owners. And we've looked at the existing vegetation, the trees, and certainly everything would be done possible to protect the root systems of surrounding trees. So that should you should be made aware of that.
Can I just confirm why tree plantings in that location would not be appropriate? Through you, Mr. Chair.
In this particular case, it's not necessary. We've recommended a fence, so you're not going to see the neighbors are not going to see very much, if any, of the shipping container. And there are already quite a number of trees in the backyards of the surrounding properties and on the property itself. It's actually a very nice property. So as much as possible will be done to protect the existing trees both on and off the property. And it's unnecessary to plant more.
And from our perspective, if I can jump in for a second,
okay.
We don't think anything will grow there because it's ground right now, and it's these giant trees that essentially block all light and also suck up all the water. So we think the fence is actually the best option that will cover the ship. Otherwise, we would just put up a cedar hedge, and that would have been perfectly good for us, but we can't, it won't grow.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, that's helpful. It appears to me that at the end of the day, once that fence goes up, the relationship between this property and the properties on Maywood, 15 and 19 Maywood, will resemble a typical relationship between residential properties. In your backyard, you often see wood structure fencing, which as similar to what's being proposed here. So I think all the impacts will be mitigated. And I have no further questions. Thank you.
Scott.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to, on the record, say that I'm struggling with this application because I went out to see the site and I saw possibilities of relocating these structures in behind the building, which would be out of sight, out of mind. I actually think that the fence that Jennifer just mentioned is going to actually add to the impact on the neighbors, because most of the neighbors have chain link fences at this point in time. So I think when the time comes, I probably will not be supporting the application.
Okay. Any further comments or questions from the committee?
Well, just and I respect Mr. sorry, I interrupted.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I can appreciate Mr. Hanna's comments. The only thing I would note is that while there are existing chain link fences in this particular location, it's always the right of a property owner to construct a fence of you know, a wood privacy fence of what's being proposed here. So I mean, they can do that regardless. So I'm not sure that I would allow that to impact my opinion on the application. Just wanted to add that. Thank you.
I think the applicant wants to say something.
Thank you, Chair. There's also, while there is 2 chain link fences right there, and I agree that it exists there, there's also multiple high wood fences all around our property also. So it's not, in fact, I would say the chain link fences are incongruous to the rest of the property, which are wood.
Okay, thank you for the comment. Any further comments? Not seeing any at the moment. I will ask staff a quick question. Actually, no, I think it's all okay. This property is zoned I-1 institutional. So that's how and that can permit both a modified and an unmodified shipping container because it's institutional?
Not entirely correct. One of the reasons for the variances is to permit outdoor storage and the unmodified shipping container is considered outdoor storage. Okay. So it's not permitted right now. The variance would allow it to be permitted, and the purpose of the site plan is to geographically fix that to a certain location.
Okay. I see that the staff has recommended approval with 3 conditions, which is the site plan, which will be good, the 8-foot fence, and a completion date. Do we have a completion date here? Yes. Yeah, that's a little over a year. Okay, any further comments or questions from the committee? Jennifer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to, I suppose, the applicant or perhaps Mr. Pinnell. We heard comments about there being room for this proposed structure to be located towards the rear of the property. Has that been explored, and is from your perspective, is that feasible?
Okay, can I jump in?
Sure, go ahead, and then we'll hear from Mr. Pinnell in a minute.
Okay. So no, that won't be feasible, unfortunately. I know people talked about behind the building. So we have a traditional healing lodge, which is indigenous in nature, predates colonial contact. We have a pre-existing teaching lodge, also predating colonial contact. We have medicine gardens in the back, and we have food gardens for the homeless people that we service. So to say that let's tear those gardens out and put the shipping container back there, it doesn't make any sense at all. Plus the one, which is the garage, that new garage that we're building, it needs to be in the parking lot so people can access it and people can do the bike training that we're going to do with them. Putting it out on the grass just doesn't make any sense.
Sorry, I was just distracted by a snowstorm that just hit me. Okay, carrying on. Any further comments or questions? Andrew, you were going to respond to this?
Yeah, just to add on to that, I've toured the property, and most of the grounds, as Mr. Jackson has said, are indeed covered with features. They've got planter beds, the healing lodge, the teaching lodge. There's also a landscaped wampum belt walkway at the back. And there's a future orchard planned, I believe, towards the front of the property. And so these are all pretty much landscape features, but they're integral to the outreach's operations. And just looking at the property and the land that's remaining, the back corner where they've proposed these outdoor, where these accessory buildings is likely the best location.
Any further comments or questions from the committee? Scott?
Just so the other members of the committee are, or I'm clear with what I'm suggesting here, the Healing Lodge, I'm not suggesting to be removed. My two site visits, maybe it was at the wrong time, but I didn't see much of the parking lot being used. I think there's the ability of shifting these, the location of at least the current accessory structure to a complying location, and perhaps even building a second one that would meet code and meet the requirements. It would be further away from the lot line. It might actually be the ability of putting in some landscaping. So I'm just struggling with the fact that there are other locations on this site that are better than what is being proposed.
Okay, the applicant.
So I heard that our parking lot isn't busy, and I would respectfully disagree with that statement. So and during the second, I would agree, we're not as busy as we normally are because of COVID-19. We had to close our doors to protect the Indigenous families that were visiting us. We had 100 children and their families, which totaled 187 people, 2 days before we closed our door for the pandemic. And our parking lot is almost, well, our parking lot, there isn't room to park in it when we have our early on open. We're about to, well, we've obviously launched a lot of businesses since then, which is mental health for the Indigenous community, as well as a tech mentoring hub, as well as our expanded employment agency. There's going to be very little space really anywhere, and I agree with Andrew in that it's the only place to put these structures, unfortunately, based on our entire property that we have available.
Question for staff then, Mr. Chairman, sorry to interrupt again. How many parking spaces are required for this facility, and do we have access on site?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I don't have that figure on hand, unless it's in the chart here.
I have to believe that there's plenty of parking there because it was once used as a church. And there's probably less required for the agency or office that's currently required.
We would likely have to do a calculation to find out the required parking. It was done as part of the parking analysis, but I don't have the number on hand. And I should also state that any parking requirement under the zoning would be a minimum. And so if the needs of the actual outreach are higher than what the minimum are, then that should be taken into account.
So in answer to the parking question, yes, we exceed our parking requirement based on our square footage. That analysis was done in the very beginning. And that's also thanks to the church and the parking lot. And I also agree with what Andrew was saying in that our needs based on our clientele have, a lot of people are using our parking lot when we're open.
Okay. And having a big parking lot allows you some flexibility for your programs. And for, I know we can't do that right now because it's winter and COVID, but you could be having ceremonial events or other things happening in your parking lot. I think the idea of having a large parking lot for this type of endeavor adds a great deal of flexibility with the future as we move forward. So, okay, another comment?
And I agree, Chair. We actually do hold ceremonial events here. And in fact, that is a use of our parking lot. We do healing ceremonies as well as other ceremonies. So yes, I absolutely agree with what you're saying.
Okay, any further comments from the committee? Okay, Mike. Unmute, Mike. Mike, you're muted.
My apologies to the applicant. And this is just a minor issue for the future. Most of the concern seems to be issues of a visual nature rather than a use nature. Is there plans, first of all, the fence, I'm assuming that the fence will be a solid board palisade style fence, more than 8 feet high, so that nothing will be visible through the fence?
So in answer to your question, my intent with the shipping containers is to put the fence just around the shipping container to leave the backyards of the people with their views that they currently have to be as beautiful as possible, and not cut off their views of our property, which is almost like a park. And yes, in answer to your question, we absolutely intend to make this fence as beautiful as possible, because it's an Indigenous center of healing. And because it's an Indigenous center of healing, we can't make it look like a garbage dump, because that just doesn't emanate healing. So everything that we've built either inside or outside reflects that beautiful piece. And if people have been to our property, they would see the pollinator garden or the medicine gardens or all those garden beds, or I guess berry gardens that we put in, the wampum trail. It's all designed to have a really beautiful park-like setting, again, because it's part of getting back to the land and healing from the land. So yes, our intent is to make it a really beautiful fence, because that fits with everything else that we're doing too.
Okay.
But it would just be an enclosure rather than a boundary fence.
That's our intent, is to completely cover the thing in like cedar so it looks beautiful, and leave people their views that they currently have. But if the committee wants us to put a fence between us and the other property owners, and we'll happily share that cost with them.
Andrew.
Yeah, and just to clarify, the type of fencing that staff is recommending would be a fence on or just inside the property line that would be 2.6 meters high.
Okay, so to quickly recap, I think we've discussed this quite in depth. We've heard from the people who are opposed, and we have some reservations from our committee meeting and Mr. Hanna. What about our other two committee members? What are your thoughts on this?
I'm in support of the application. I don't think there's anything that's come forward that changes my mind, nor can move us to a deferral recommendation. I would move that the application be approved as submitted today.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a seconder? Jennifer? Okay, I'll call the vote. All in favor? 2 in favor, opposed? And that is carried.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I just need to make sure that you are in support as well. I do need you to vote for every application.
Okay, I thought I only got to vote if there was a tie.
No, sir. Everybody of the committee votes.
Okay, well then I'm in support.
Thank you.
Okay, next application is on for Eagle Crest. One after it's for Eagle Crest, and the one after that is for Eagle Crest. I see that they are all virtually identical, so unless there's an objection, I think we should tackle the next three as one. How does the committee feel on that?
I'm in support.
No issues.
Okay, then we'll deal with, let me get the paper straight here. 919, 919, 923, and 928 Eagle Crest Court, which are minor variances. Is the applicant here? It would be Karen Kramer.
Yes, I am.
I see she's there by phone. Have you read the staff report for all three of these applications?
I have.
Any questions, comments, concerns?
No, pretty straightforward.
Okay, comments from the committee. Scott, you have a comment.
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Chairman. I forgot to ask the question of the applicant. Are you going to actually construct the driveway with the weird configuration that is shown?
I believe I'd have to verify that with our planning department, but I believe that is the case.
So what I'm trying to drive at is you're going to keep it at 6 meters, 3 meters out on the site, and then you're going to wow it out. You're not going to just take it from the garage right out to the street.
Again, I'd have to verify that with the team.
Anyway, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy if they're going to construct it the way it is. It's going to be a sea of asphalt if they construct it straight out to the street. So I'm hoping that they will construct it as they've got it shown. That's what I will be supporting anyway.
Oh, yeah. We definitely would, as shown.
Yeah, I think that they would have to go ahead with, if this is approved, they would have to go with it ahead with it as it is shown in the staff report. Any further comments, questions on any one of the three applications?
Sorry, I just wanted to ensure, Bob, Julianne has her hand raised, so I just didn't know if she wanted to contribute.
Oh, I missed that. Sorry. Julianne. You have to unmute. Julianne, unmute. There you go.
Mr. Chair, it takes me a little bit of time because the internet is not great here, but just wanted to mention that the staff report has indicated that the driveway will be tapered as it goes towards the road. And given the shape of the lots, that is what staff has recommended and has been in consultation with the applicant on. So I believe that what is shown is what is going to be constructed, and that they're going to have only more or less like a single driveway access, which will widen out as you get closer to the location of the garage for the property. Right. If that satisfies Mr. Hannah's concerns, then I just wanted to point that out.
Okay, it does make sense to me. The front yard is is a permissible width, but as you go down through the property to the back on all three of these, they taper out. So I think a tapered driveway kind of would suit these properties. Jennifer?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just wondering if the committee, out of an abundance of caution, wants to add a condition that the driveways be constructed substantially in accordance with the drawings as set out in the staff report.
I would love that condition.
Okay.
Thought you might.
So we've added that as one condition, and that would apply to all three applicants, Jennifer?
I believe so.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Diana, do we need 3 resolutions, or are you going to be happy if we moved all 3 at the same time?
I'll be fine if you move all 3. That's not a problem.
Okay, do we have a motion? Scott?
Yeah, I'll move the staff reports for all 3 applications subject to the one condition that was mentioned by Jennifer.
Seconder? Jennifer, all in favor? Carried.
Thank you.
Moving ahead. Next application is 80 Westwood Drive. I got that right? Yeah. Okay, I see Valerie Schmidt is here as the applicant. Is there anyone in opposition to this application? Don't see anybody signing up. Okay, Valerie, I'm assuming you've read the staff report?
Yes, we have, and we have no issues.
Bob, I just want to let you know the applicant June is also in attendance.
Thank you.
Okay.
The owner is June.
Ah.
The property owner. Let's make sure both people are on the meeting and both are present at the meeting.
Okay. This seems fairly straightforward to me. It's just legalizing an existing triplex with really no changes. Any comments, Scott?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I noticed that the, and this is just a question for either the applicant or staff. I noticed that the triplex is existing, which I'm assuming means the third unit was added without a permit, and building is asking for a permit. Should we be adding a condition that at least the permit be applied for?
Well, okay, there's a question from me to the applicant. How long has this been a triplex? It looks like from the size of it, it always would have been.
Yeah, so June purchased this back in November 2019, and then they realized that that third unit, I think when they were trying to obtain title insurance, found out that that third unit wasn't legal. So they're just trying to rectify. I exactly don't know how long it's been operating, but at least almost going on a year since they purchased it. They're just going through and trying to legalize it right now.
And just a quick comment, this is June here. When I looked at the listing prior to when I purchased it, it looked like there was always a third unit, probably owner occupied, and then they rented out the upper two units. So looking back at photos of previous listings, it was always already furnished with furniture and bedrooms and kitchens.
Mr. Chairman, I'll rephrase my question for staff then. Will the condition that's being recommended about the occupancy certificate involve a potential permit if necessary?
Julianne.
Muted.
You're muted. Oh, there we go.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to mention that we would have no opposition if you wanted to add that condition.
I'm in agreement with Scott. I think it's better to be safe and add that as a second condition. Any comments from the committee? Jennifer.
Mr. Chair, just through you to the applicant planner, Ms. Schmidt, on the third page of the staff report, there's a site plan here.
Yep.
I assume that was submitted by you. Is that your proposed site plan?
That's correct. The owner would like to widen the driveway to just accommodate the parking spaces. It all complies with zoning. We've been working with city staff. We just got some comments back on the site plan application that we submitted.
Okay, and this would be subject to site plan because it's a triplex?
Because we're doing some minor alterations to the property, it's required. It's a stamp B site plan application. So it's pretty, they're recognizing that the changes are minor.
Okay. Any further questions, comments from the committee?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I think Ms. Von Westerholt was going to say something.
Yes, Julianne.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to confirm and to reaffirm or answer Ms. Meter's question with respect to whether or not a site plan is required. It is required because it is a third unit, and that is the reason for the need for a site plan. And as per Ms. Schmidt's response, yes, it's going to be a stamp plan B, which is just a modified, a minor site plan, but a site plan is required because there is the third unit.
Thank you, Ms. Through you, Mr. Chair. That's helpful. I just wanted to ensure that the changes to the property in terms of adding the walkway and removing pavement along the west east property line, that's all going to be addressed, and it sounds like that will be dealt with through the site plan process. So thank you. That satisfies my concerns.
Okay, any further questions or comments from the committee? Scott?
Yeah, if there were no other comments or questions, Mr. Chairman, I fully support the application to legalize this triplex, subject to the first condition recommended by staff and a second condition that a building permit be applied for.
I'll second that, Mr.
Sorry, was that a seconding, Jennifer?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is up for vote. All in favor of this application as amended? Carried. Next application is 9-11 Samuel Street, and staff is recommending deferral. Anybody got any comments, questions on that?
Is the applicant happy with the deferral?
Is the applicant even here? Julianne, unmute.
For you, Mr. Chair, the applicant and staff have spoken about it, and the applicant is fully aware and is supportive of the deferral at this time. And probably was advised that they didn't need to attend on a day when the application was supposed to be deferred.
Okay, all in favor of deferring this? When we should defer this till January 2021? Is that enough time?
That's correct, sir. Yeah.
Okay, all in favor of deferring? Okay, that is deferred to January 2021. Okay, next on the list is 8 Devon Street. Applicants Dan Jackson and Ashley McKnight. Is the applicant here? Do I see Dan? Okay. If we don't have the,
I'm sorry, I'm here. I was just trying to get this figured out here.
As we
My
all
apologies.
are. As
Yeah.
we all are. Okay. You're the applicant for 8 Devon Street. Have you had an opportunity to read the staff report?
Yes, absolutely.
Any questions, comments?
No, I'll comment that I've worked with staff. This application we've been working on with Heritage and planning and basically every department in the city for the last 3 years. So we're just trying to finally rectify some things that got missed along the way. As you can see in the picture of the current state, we've been on hold for quite some time with the COVID shutdown and also with these sort of issues that we came up with getting our building permits to move forward. We would just like to start constructing. We're in a basically a demoed state at this point, and we're kind of coming up on some bad weather. So we're hoping that we can get some foundation work done before this all goes south, I guess you would say.
Yes, I can understand. Now, from reading the staff report, the height of the building and the parking, the requested variances are really quite minor. Does anyone on there's no one in opposition to this application that I'm aware of. Comments from the committee? Scott.
Yeah, this is deja vu because we saw this one before, but just a question for the applicant or for staff. How are you dealing, or how are you doing with your heritage permit, and will 1 year be enough time to get that permit for you?
If I can say that we already have the permit issued for phase 1 from the Heritage Committee. We're just waiting because with the condition of the Heritage permit, in addition to the condition of the Committee of Adjustments approval, was that we have the building permits in place. But then we ran into a bylaw issue on the parking setback, which prevented the permits to go through. So technically, we've basically checked all the boxes for the phase 1. Now for phase 2 application for the height section, I've already been in contact with the Heritage representatives, and we've had a long conversation, and I will be putting the application through for the meeting in January, which the deadline will be the 27th of November. So we're currently, staff and myself are in talks and putting together what we think will be a good application that will get approved whenever that January meeting is set. So I don't see any issues with the phase 2 application taking more than a year.
Okay, thanks.
Any further comments, questions?
Mr. Chair, I suppose I'll only comment to say that based on the sketches that are here, this is certainly going to be an improvement from what's going on the site now. It's a very interesting site, and it is an interesting proposal. So, and it's a very efficient use of a relatively unique property. So I'm prepared to support the minor, which as Mr. Han indicated, these are very minor variances, and or maybe it was you, Mr. Chair, but either way, I support the variances and I'm prepared to make a motion.
Okay, we have a second. Scott seconding. All in favor? Carried.
Thank you very much.
There you go. We can go on to phase 2 now.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Okay, next application is 89 Water Street South. Let me just catch up here. Okay, the applicant is William Reimer and Wayne Baker. Are either of them logged in? I see William.
I'm here, yep. William Reimer.
William Reimer is here.
Yep, let me turn on that one.
Is your other applicant, Wayne Baker, going to be attending, or are we just dealing with you?
Just with me.
Okay.
Yep.
Have you read the staff report?
I have, and I'm in favor of it.
Okay. Any questions, comments?
No, seems straightforward.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the committee? Don't see any. Scott, you have a comment?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Staff report is recommending approval with 2 fairly straightforward conditions. Second one to apply for a building permit, and the first one being to construct the porches in accordance with heritage permit, which I believe the applicant already has. So motion to approve this, or a motion one way or the other?
I would move that this application be approved as submitted.
Okay, Mike's made the motion. Someone second? Scott seconding. All in favor? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Next one. Next one is 103 Schweitzer Street, if I pronounced that correctly. Is the applicant here? This is for severance. Is the applicant here?
Sure. Andrew Head is having some challenges trying to get logged in. Andrew, can you use your microphone now? Andrew? So I'm not sure whether or not we will be able to get him live at this moment through the chair. So do you want to just give me a few minutes, or would you like to consider the next one first, just while I work through the technical issues with Andrew?
Why don't we set this one aside and go to the next one, and hopefully Andrew can get his challenges fixed up. Okay, the one we're dealing with right now is a severance for 440 Lancaster Street West. Is the applicant or the owner logged in? I see, sorry if I don't pronounce the name right, Boban Jokanovic. Is that close?
That's correctly. Hello, everybody.
Okay. Well, I did something right today. If I understand this, is fairly straightforward, is to demolish the existing, sever the property, and build 2 new single-family residents. I'm assuming the applicant has read the staff report. Do you have any comments or questions?
Yes, I have read the staff report and I do not have any questions. Everything is straightforward. I have understood everything that's in there.
Wow, good. Any comments from committee members? Not seeing any. I'll jump in and okay, that was the other one. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. There's 14 conditions, which are normally the standard conditions. Any comments on the conditions in the staff report from the committee members? Not seeing any. I guess that means we're all in favor of this. Can we get a motion?
Mr. Chair.
Scott or Jennifer? Jennifer, second.
I was going to say, Mr. Chairman, I will certainly move the application. It's going to be a challenging site for the applicant to appease the regional conditions, especially noise, but I wish him well. And he's trying to intensify a site. And so I'm prepared to support the recommendation subject to the 14 conditions.
Thank you.
A seconder for that? Mike, all in favor? Carried.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. I can confirm that Andrew Head should be available to speak now, and he has called in instead.
Okay, so we get to listen to Andrew. We don't get to see him. Okay, we're back to application for 103 Schweitzer Street.
Hi, Mr. Chairman, staff. I got a little bit of an echo going on here. I'm, sometimes technically challenged, but I dressed up nice for you. It's too bad you can't see me.
Well, save that for next month. Andrew, you've obviously read the staff report. Do you have any questions or comments?
Yeah, I do. Just a little bit. Obviously, my name is Andrew Head from Dryden Smith and Head Planning. I'm here on behalf of my client, the owner of 103 Schweitzer. This is a pretty straightforward severance application, but there's a couple little small glitches on it. Unlike the neighborhood, this proposed severance is not unique. The severed lot is rather shallow, but as you can see from Schedule A, did you guys all manage to get the Schedule A's that got through this morning, I hope? It meets all of the zoning requirements, although it is a really shallow lot. If you review the neighborhood lot fabric, the overall picture of it, you'll see that that this is a mixed residential neighborhood with many different lot sizes that vary in depths and widths, from large singles to small semi-detached residential lots. The neighboring houses are set back from the street and pushed forward. The only consistent street line in this neighborhood is inconsistent. Schedule A, as you can see, shows a building footprint of 1,230 square feet. This will easily accommodate a house of 2,000 square feet and provide the required side yard setbacks and amenity areas with room to spare. The retained lot meets all of the zoning parking requirements. We have submitted a stamp plan B and expect approval and comments from staff in the very near future. We have read the staff report and are in support of the recommendation to approve, with the exception of condition number 9, requesting a tree preservation and enhancement plan, and condition number 5, to pay for non-existing sidewalks that are likely will not be built. If you take a look at some of the pictures that I'd sent in that attachment, or you conduct a site visit or do a Google aerial view, you can see that the proposed severed lot does not have any trees or bushes on it. It's actually just grass. The retained lot has 4 trees that are on the opposite side of the building. There are no trees will be disturbed when the new residence is constructed, as Schedule A shows that there's only 1 tree, which is at the back corner of the neighbor's lot. from our calculations, the drip line on that proposed lot is at least 11 feet from the rear of the building line setback. We understand and support the tree preservation and enhancer plans, but request that this condition be removed because of lack of vegetation and the distance from the building line setback. I know it is necessary to have this additional condition, but why are we creating red tape when there's no vegetation on the property? It's well far back from the drip lines. And then I also wanted to speak just briefly about transportation requested payment for sidewalks. There is no sidewalks. As you can see on Schedule B, the air photography, there's no sidewalks on any of the streets surrounding this neighborhood. We reviewed the city's criteria on when and where the sidewalk should be constructed as a priority. This street is listed as priority number 4, which is the lowest priority. If and when developed, sidewalks will be only on one side. Which side would they be on? Well, and when would they be installing these sidewalks? Why is somebody paying for additional, sidewalks that are never going to be built? I expect that the road, which consists of swales and drainage ditches, would be reconstructed prior to sidewalks.
I see Julianne would like to make a comment on that. Having either you're muted. Okay, unmute.
Right, through you, Mr. Chair. I would like to just mention that first of all, to the first point about the tree preservation enhancement plan, this is a condition that our environmental planning staff have requested. It is not uncommon to request this condition, even if there are few trees or trees that are boundary trees, which there is a possibility of in this case. The intent is to determine whether or not there is in fact an issue, and the only way to determine that is if we do the tree preservation plan. This comes up from time to time where people indicate concern over the condition because of the fact that there aren't very many trees, but we are concerned with the trees that are either adjacent or straddling a property line, which is something that we can't determine at this time. The extent of the plan is probably something that could be scoped depending on the nature of the site. That's something that the applicant or the proponent can work out with our environmental planning staff. To the second end, with respect to the sidewalk, we have Stephen Ryder in attendance. My understanding is that first opportunity to collect these fees is at consent stage, which is this stage right now. Stephen can speak to the timing and or the priority. That's more something that our transportation folks would be in. I guess they have a better handle on that. And we are looking at making communities more walkable and what have you. We have to have the funds and the means collected in order to put that into action. But Stephen is here as well at the committee's convenience.
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's correct. Yeah, so in terms of our requirement for the cash in lieu for future sidewalks, it's a typical request that we have through consent to sever applications in streets, on streets where there are no sidewalks currently present. The policy, it's part of our sidewalk policy that any lands being developed, the owners, the applicants cover the future construction costs of that sidewalk. It would only apply to the severed portion of the property, of the existing property, 103 Schweitzer. I don't have any specifics on when or if Schweitzer itself will be reconstructed. If it is ever reconstructed, our new policies in accordance with our Complete Streets guidelines, would that be sidewalks would be on both sides of the street. And in terms of the cash collected, that typically goes to a pot that engineering services maintains, and it happens for any property throughout the city with these applications, or potentially through site plan applications for properties. So it's a typical request that we have, we don't really, like in terms of the infill policy, I'm not too sure on. I know Mr. Head spoke to the priority. I don't look after the sidewalk infill policy. So I'm not sure that, like I don't expect sidewalks to be constructed on there through that infill policy. It would likely be through a future reconstruction down the road.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
Go ahead, Andrew.
If I may, I know Julian, you said you want to protect the vegetation that's on or adjacent to the property, and there's no way of knowing. Well, I provided pictures showing that there's one tree at the very far back corner that is showing that's going to be well outside the building setbacks, and it's not going to be in danger. So the provincial government always is mandating we need to clean up the policies and the planning policies to help expedite some of these development procedures, and how do we process this stuff instead of making more red tape. Here's a prime example of creating more or less red tape. There is no vegetation on the property. There's no vegetation close to the property. It's well outside the drip line. I understand that it's going to be pretty relatively easy to check this box because there's no vegetation. So the same point, why is it even there? Why do we have to do that extra step? Every extra step, every extra dollar goes on to the housing cost, it goes on to the end consumer. And you know what? Maybe not this instance, but the overall picture rises up the value of houses all the time. When are we going to stop riddling the end user, the home buyer, with all of these additional costs at every opportunity? Now we're getting them to pay for sidewalks that aren't going to be built. We're getting them to pay for trees. We're going to study trees that aren't there. At some point in time, maybe you guys have the power right now to decide whether this is necessary. At one point in time, we used to have noise studies were required for existing situation where we know there are noise. Unless somebody stands up and makes a point of minimizing some of this red tape and this additional cost to the end user, we're going to continue to see this grow. What can we do as a community? What can you guys do in your position, in your chairs, to help this? I respectfully request that the committee remove condition 5 and remove condition 9. And I understand whichever choice is up to you, and I will happily oblige. But that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, a couple of things before we get into Andrew's requests. I think there needs, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's some regional fees that need to be added under the conditions. Any comment on that? Okay, well, we'll have to add those as condition 12. Any comments from staff or the committee on cash in lieu for sidewalk installation, or well, no, let me ask a question to staff. Maybe Julianne may know. How onerous is a tree preservation / enhancement plan? How difficult is that going to be for this particular property?
For you, Mr. Chair, I can't tell you that specifically. That's the whole purpose of the exercise, is to find out exactly what's out there, have someone who is a professional arborist or landscape person that can go out and make that determination. I would venture a guess that it's probably not as onerous as something on a site that is well treed, but it is a requirement, and I don't want to belabor the subject. Where staff's position is on this.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from the committee members? Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to comment a little bit about what the applicant's talking about. I'm not going to remove condition 5. Just so the applicant's aware, I was a planner for 32 years in the municipal government, and this is the opportunity for development to pay for itself. They're going to put money into a fund that will help to fund sidewalks if and when they get constructed. I share your concern about condition number 9, although you should note that the condition talks about the severed and retained lands. The retained lands do have trees, and condition 11 requires you to submit a minor site plan application for the retained lands. I'm going to assume that that is for kind of relocating the driveway slightly. I'm going to get Julianne to confirm that in a second. I am prepared, though, to support a scoped tree preservation enhancement plan because I think it's going to be very simple. They're simply looking at the drip line of the severed property to make sure your rear yard is out of the drip line, which it obviously is in my view. And there are 4 trees on the retained lands, and you're in for a stamp Plan B. So that's my comments, Mr. Chairman. I'll wait for others.
Okay, so that's a modification to condition 9, that it's a scoped tree preservation enhancement plan.
Correct.
Any other comments, Jennifer?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know we have, in terms, I'll start with the tree preservation plan. I know in the past we have waived this policy despite the city asking for it. The city respectfully asks for it with every application without really, you know, site-specific considerations to the need for it. So I'm prepared as a compromise to support Mr. Hanna's suggestion for a scoped tree preservation plan, if that's satisfactory. I would be happy to remove it altogether. We have done that before, and I don't see the need for it here, but I'll leave it at that. In terms of the future sidewalk installation, so condition 5 talks about making financial arrangements for the relocation of any existing city-owned street furniture, signs, hydrants, utility poles, wires, or lines as required. And I agree with all that. I think those are standard conditions that if your proposed development results in the relocation of any of those things, that's absolutely appropriate that you would have to be responsible for those relocations. But I agree with the applicant that the future installation of sidewalks it may be beyond the authority of the city to be requesting that. We know they can ask for parkland dedication under Section 42 of the Planning Act. And if they have a community benefits bylaw or Section 37 bylaw in place, they can ask for that when it would apply, and that wouldn't in this case. I don't know that DCs apply in this case, but if they do, I just looked at the local service policy and the background study, and in that local service policy, sidewalks that are external to the development are DC items. They're not to be charged to the individual applicant. So in accordance with the DC regime for, you know, development, paying for development and infrastructure that's included in the DC program, I believe it's beyond the municipality's authority to ask for development of this nature, single unit, to fund the future installation of sidewalks. So I am prepared to strike that particular requirement from condition 5.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
You know, I understand and I appreciate them wanting to scope the tree preservation plan, and because it falls under site stamp Plan B for the severed portion, they can pick up the tree study on that side if they need it, right? The whole idea is to not have to study a piece of grass on the severed portion where there's no trees about it. You know, if you want to make the scope directed towards just the retained lands instead of the severed lands, I would support that. If not, it's like, you know, it's not going to be owners. And my concern is it's always one extra step in the red tape process to get every checkbox. When I'm going to go later on, I'll be clearing all these conditions. And it's one more step in me to deal with the director to get this letter signed from somebody else. And it's always a process. I understand that it's not going to be onerous, and it doesn't matter if it's scoped or not because there's no vegetation on there, unless they want to move it to just being on the retained portions, because then that's going to sideline with the stamp Plan B. I have no issues with that. And I also have concerns with paying $50,000 at building permit to pay for the development charges and then having to pay for sidewalks that actually should be coming at the development charges. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, sort of to summarize the comments that we've had from the committee, there's a modification to condition number 5, deleting the last phrase, and provide payments toward future installation of sidewalk to the satisfaction Director of Engineering, and that on condition number 9, Part A, the owner shall prepare a scoped tree preservation enhancement plan, and then there's also the last condition for regional fees. Have I summarized that fairly well? Mr. Hanna, you have something to say.
Yeah, I'm gonna complicate matters a little further by asking staff to clarify a couple things. I would support Jennifer's comments about sidewalks if I had confirmation that the DC bylaw does in fact include sidewalks. That's the first thing. The second thing is I support the applicant's view on the retained lands needing the scoped tree preservation plan. I really do not see any need for it on the severed lands at all. So I'm kind of leaning towards Jennifer, and the condition numbers, if we're going to add the regional condition, it would actually become 11 because condition 11 should be 10 in the resolution. So if Julianne could comment, or somebody could comment about the DC bylaw and sidewalks, that would be the first suggestion.
Nobody's commenting.
For you, Mr. Chair, I don't have a copy of the DC bylaw in front of me. Yes, typically there is certain infrastructure works are covered through the development charges bylaw. As you are aware, things are perhaps moving in a different direction given the provincial direction with respect to DCs and collection thereof. I don't have a comment at this point in time as to whether or not sidewalks are in or out at this point in time. This is a condition that has been asked for and received and issued by the committee in the past. I've been on the Committee of Adjustment for 14 years, and this has been a condition that has been consistently applied to applications. So that's all I'm going to say on the matter.
Steve?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to kind of speak to and agree with Julianne, I'm not an expert on the development charges bylaw. I don't have a copy in front of me. From my experience, the sidewalk charges fall under the offsite works part through engineering. I don't know if that, I don't have a comment on whether that would fall under the development charges as well. But to also echo what Julianne said, it's been a typical request for our group, Transportation Services, through these consent to sever applications. In my couple of years experience with Committee of Adjustment applications, it's been something that we apply equally to all these properties that come in for a land severance. And again, it would only retain, or it would only be applicable to the severed portions of the land, nothing to do with the retained portion.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just add, then I'm fully supportive of Jennifer's modification of that condition, and I would suggest that staff come back to us for future meetings on the policy and why it's being. It looks like a double dip to me, because if it is covered by the DC bylaw, which Jennifer, I believe her, if the applicant was messing up a sidewalk and putting in infrastructure, they have to pay for the repair of that sidewalk. I've been doing this for a long time. So they should be required, but for future installation of sidewalks, if it's covered by the DC bylaw, that condition is should not be there, at least that portion of the condition.
Okay, let me see, just give me a sec. Okay, any further comments?
Sorry, Bob, but Mr. Chair, just a very quick comment with respect to clause number 5. Are we recommending that the final sentence be removed from that with respect to the further installation of the sidewalk, or the full removal of clause 5?
I think from what I understand is that we're just removing the last phrase from after the word required, where it goes, and provide payments toward future installation of sidewalk to the satisfaction of Director of Engineering. I think we're removing the phrase and provide payment towards the future installation of sidewalk.
Correct. Okay, I hadn't heard that specifically addressed, so that it's in the motion, that's all.
Yeah, I think that's what has been discussed or brought forward. And any further questions, Mike?
No.
Okay, so we have.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just move this along, ask a question of Jennifer. I know you want to delete the condition 9 in its entirety. I'm happy to keep it on the retained portion. I don't know if what your feeling on that is. I would appreciate your thoughts.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm fully supportive of that. I was supportive of your proposed for scoped, and if you're happy with making it only for the retained lands, which I understand is what the applicant would be satisfied with as well, then that sounds like it's doable, workable all around.
I'm gonna take the bold move of moving support for this application subject to the conditions listed by staff with the following modifications. Removing the clause and provide payment towards the future installation of sidewalk for clause 5. To modify clause 9 to say that it is in clause 9A, that it's a scoped tree preservation enhancement plan, and that the first part of clause 9 be registered on title of the retained lands. And then condition 11 becomes condition 10, and you add the regional fee as condition number 11.
Sounds good to me. Diana, did you get all that?
Yes, everything reported as corrected. Yep, thank you.
Okay, so is that a motion, Scott?
That would be a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Do we have a seconder? Mike is the seconder. All in favor of this as amended? Carried. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, staff and council, thanks very much.
Did we just get referred to as council?
Hey, do we get a pay?
You did. Sorry.
Thank
and
you.
committee
Mr.
members,
Ed.
I hope you guys have a great day. Bye.
See you, Andrew. Okay. Let me just make sure I'm organized here. Okay, the last application, 956 Glasgow Street. I see Mr. Pierre Chauvin is here as the applicant. There are nobody's objecting to this as far as I can see. Okay, Mr. Chauvin, have you read the staff report?
I have, Mr. Chair, and I have no comments. Pretty straightforward application.
Okay, any comments or questions from the committee members? Scott.
All right, just Mr. Chairman, there's a quick question for staff. On page 2 of the report, it talks about a 6-meter wide easement being required, and the condition 4 asks for a 5-meter wide easement. I'm just wondering what is correct so we get it correct.
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
The 6 meter is for the sanitary sewer, and then the 5 is for from Kitchener Utilities.
Julianne, you have a comment?
No, I just wanted to concur with Mr. Chauvin for that. I agree. The 5 meters was for utilities, other utilities, okay. And the 6 meters was for the sanitary.
Does that clear that up, Scott?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, any other concerns, questions, comments? Seeing none, I think this is fairly straightforward. Servicing easements as explained by the applicant. Anybody going to make a motion to deal with this application?
Mr. Chair, I'll move that this application be approved with the conditions set out in the staff report.
Seconder? Scott or Mike. All in favor? Motion carried. That's it, folks. Motion to adjourn.
I will make that motion.
Seconded by Scott. All in favor? Okay, thanks very much.